Hello and welcome to this short video examining why creationism is not accurate, using some analogies that creationists use. Here is one of them. Something so complex could not have come about by chance, because that would be like a tornado blowing through a scrapyard and creating a complex machine like a jet plane. So using this and so-called biblical events, I will demonstrate how Ussher's chronology of the Bible that is used by creationists is not reliable. Not because Ussher wasn't diligent in his studies, but because the Bible is fallible. Ussher might as well have been working out when Harry Potter started at Hogwarts Academy, because that would be the modern day equivalent. The Bible is a book or a set of writings as a story, and not to be taken literally. The other thing I hear Christians of that belief echo is that all you have to do is look around the world at your environment. So I am looking at my environment as I have seen and been to these places that I used for this example. So to set the timeline, the Answers in Genesis website says that Noah's flood happened in 2348 BC, and this is taken directly from Ussher's chronology. So let's see what was happening in Ireland, my local environment, according to God, and cross-reference that with the sciences at around that time and the few thousand years or millennia before that. According to modern science, the last ice age ended approximately 20,000 years ago, and the great ice sheet receded from Ireland, leaving great valleys and gouges of earth and rock across the landscape. This is why reptiles and snakes never made it back to Ireland, and has nothing to do with St. Patrick. Of course, this is impossible according to Ussher's chronology, because the world wasn't even created at that time, and nor did Ussher care for St. Patrick, as he was a Catholic. So let's see what my local environment, the creationists say God created, has to say. God made the world, and it's not specific as to the type of stone that he or she made it with in County Mayo, Ireland, my home county. But it was made with some sort of rock or earth, obviously, as the limestones of the flood didn't exist. But God made it with an effective amount of granite extrusions from volcanic behaviour in that area that geologists say is millions of years old. Dirty scientists, how dare they say such a thing? And now, as a consequence, County Mayo is one of the most radioactive radon gas areas of Europe. God just poofed this sort of thing into existence without a care in the world or a thought for its population of this area. And then God, he or she, must have thought about it, and on his or her next time on shift decided to use the flood to make the drumlins in Clew Bay and areas of Mayo. Because let's face it, it has nothing to do with the Ice Age. What nonsense that would be. These features were just made perfectly, all in one direction because of the flood, to make up for God's distribution of radioactive material. This was obviously to pacify humans with such a beautiful view, because God must have regretted leaving so much uranium in the rock that scientists believe is responsible for the high rate of cancers among its small population. In some way, God had to make it up to them with beautiful views, and yes, County Mayo and all of Ireland is beautiful, even when God sends the rain from the Atlantic, which of course has nothing to do with climatology or the Gulf Stream or any of that scientific stuff. What a nice, considerate God he or she is. The reason I say he or she is that I cannot say for sure that God is male or female. For the same reasons I cannot state for sure that God exists, because of the absence of proof. But if God does exist, then in my mind it has to be female, for the sole reason that if God designed us, and creationists say that God did design us, and women can experience multiple orgasms, then logically a female God is the conclusion. Because, well, you know guys, we only just get the one. And all the extreme feminists out there just screamed patriarchy, like a huge disturbance in the force. Anyway, back to the point at hand. Let's look at what was going on at the time of Noah's flood, according to Ussher's timeline in Ireland. All we can go on is, if Noah's flood is true, then everything was wiped away by God. The landscape and all life was eradicated, only the ark was saved, and all the kinds upon it. The Grand Canyon was formed, and the sedimentary rocks were laid down like, for instance, the limestones in Ireland. So let's look at what is present today. Now, I am no geologist, but according to creationist thinking, the limestones that form, for this example, the Burren, which is a region in County Clare, were laid down at that time of the flood, as they are layered, and would give the impression that water formed them. If Noah's flood is responsible, then how come there are more than 90 megalithic tombs in the area? Portal dolmens, including Pulnabro dolmen, that predate the flood of Noah by over 1,000 years as a conservative estimate, sitting on top of these limestone formations. Was it a tornado of water running through a scrapyard of rock that formed these structures? Now, considering that the scrapyard of rock could not have existed because this was before the flood, how could a dolmen, these designed structures, have come to rest in their form on top of the sediments of Noah's flood? Was it just coincidence, due to the ejaculation of waters from the deep that the likes of Nephilim Free is fond of spouting about, that these rocks came to rest this way? Or was it yet another miracle of God to convince us of his omniscience and omnipresence, to place these rocks in a designed way upon what is the result of Noah's floodplains, but then bury the remains of humans, both adults and babies, that those dirty scientists have dated to be there before the flood of Noah? These human remains are laid out within these megalithic tombs ceremoniously with their artifacts like stone axes, quartz crystals and other items, and all this around the time of Usher's date of creation, and hence the start of the Bible. I wonder why that is. This is what I observe. It's what I look around me and see. When I look around, the God that so wants to be adored has no reason to exist. The biblical creation is so far removed from the reality of 6,000 years ago, the time of these tombs, and the people of that time just had honoured their dead without the need for the God of the Bible, because nothing could have existed according to the Bible, but they may have used a reverence to a God long since forgotten. Is it that the whole scientific world is against Christianity? The dirty scientists are just making all this up to persecute the Christians or any other religious peoples as a whole? Or is it that whereas Usher may have used what knowledge was available at that time to compile his chronology, and only used about 1/5 of the Bible to work out the timeline about a book which he took as fact, modern discovery has outdated this thinking, and the Bible was just a story to frighten people to keep conformity in those days of more violent and uncivilized thinking. Really what Usher was chronicling was just a fairy story, or a fiction, like Harry Potter's journey to Hogwarts. I wonder what stories or fantasies these ancient people of Ireland, buried within these tombs, believed in. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.